You're on your phone, maybe, Danielle, and still traveling home, but I know that you've been busy tonight also doing presentations. So I want to welcome everybody to the call and just say, why do we do this? Well, as David tells us every week, this is our way of being able to have an opportunity to bond together, regardless of wherever we live, and that can be not just in North America, but around the world. And we know we have lots of people who do tune in despite different time zones, and so it's super to see us all together. And this is just a great way for us to get connected, because this can be a lonely business. And we work much better as teams, both in our own local team and as our global team. And it really is a great way to feel supported in what you're doing, because sometimes this can feel kind of challenging out there when you're struggling with the process of getting people through this business and sharing our information with them and all the ups and downs that it takes to do that. So we have a great way to come together, and with leaders in the area, we can all share those things that help us move through this and become better at what we do, have an opportunity to acknowledge our team and everybody's successes that are going on week by week. And it looks like we have a huge list to talk about tonight. I kind of feel bad because we've had some really amazing shifts in rank advancements, and I always feel like David and Debbie should be the ones to officially be acknowledging those people. But we will do it on their behalf, and I'm sure that they'll pop in at some point and add their congratulations, because it is immense. It also gives us a chance to connect with, making sure that we keep up to date with opportunities to share this around the country and be able to know where we can point different people if we've got guests that we're looking at or prospects that we're talking to, not simply in our own hometown, by knowing what activities are going on, and opportunities for training and keeping us, both on track, and especially helping people who are new to the call and new to this business, learning, what are the ways in which we do this, because duplication is how we promote and build a business. It's not, as you've always heard, it's not what we do on our own, but it's what we duplicate that makes the difference as to where we're going to be in this business. So it's really important that we use systems, and we talk about those systems, and we share that information as to what's available for us in our resources. I will say that when we first looked at ASEA a couple of years ago and coming into this business, Dorothy, who's our sponsor, will know that I really didn't analyze, and neither Paul nor I analyzed the business side of it and what this business was and who ASEA was, and would this be from the perspective of before we signed on the line, let's put it that way, and became associates. We didn't bother to analyze who the company was or whether this was a really great opportunity, and we were just very focused on being able to just share the information about the technology. That kind of made sense to me. And in fact, I don't think Paul even knew that I had an account, because it was just about my business. So we kind of back-ended into this thing. But I'm sure anyone who's been in the ASEA field for quite a while will know that we have so many amazing tools, that we're so incredibly fortunate, I think, as network marketing companies go, and particularly we have to thank Debbie and David for their leadership in providing tools for us that enable us to share. We've still got somebody there. If you can make sure that you unmute your lines, because we can hear a few of you. And so I was really grateful, because I was able to just step in and kind of tune into what did you have that I could send to people without having to even work out how to talk about this, because certainly at the beginning, I don't think any of us really know how to encapsulate this clearly and simply. I know I pestered the wits out of Dorothy, left, right, and center, because she sent me things, and then it would be, well, I think there was this good video and it looked like this. I wouldn't even know what it was called, and I'm trying to ridiculously explain who was in the video so that she could point me back to it again, as a way of just sharing that information in the beginning and getting moving when I was excited, and I didn't really want to talk too much, and neither had I got an awful lot to say, because being in the field I was in, I was kind of looking into the science, and certainly didn't have a concise and simple way to communicate that. But you know what? That's actually probably the best thing, because you really can't get too detailed, and keeping it simple is how we can all share it day in and day out in a simple way, and so that, particularly so that people don't have to think that they need to be medically oriented to do this. I actually have talked about this with Paul at times, you know, maybe taking doctor off my card so that I don't have to even talk about that background, so that people don't think, well, I can't be what you are. So let's start. First of all, we always love to share a testimonial, and I know from the product testimonial, since this was a really last minute request to cover the call tonight, I'm going to ask Aisha, if you can unmute Aisha Risa. Aisha's going to share her story. Let's see if we can find her.
I've got her, but Mark and it won't. Yeah. I'm hitting unmute, but it won't unmute.
So Mark and Aisha, can you unmute yourself?
Let's see if.
Let's see. There, I know.
There we go. They're there.
All
okay,
right.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can.
Yay. Well, thanks, Carolyn, for inviting me to share my story. Tomorrow marks 7 weeks since we first started taking the ASEA products, both the Redox Liquid and the Renew 28. And what I noticed very first, in the very first night, was that my sleep was better. And my sleep had been pretty inconsistent and shallow, and I would wake up quite a lot. And me sleeping all the way through the night was the exception and not the rule. So when I first took it that night, I slept all the way through the night, and I thought, gosh, I hope that's not just a fluke. And it wasn't. So that was really wonderful. And then the next thing I noticed was I had, over the past probably 3-4 years, developed some excessive cell growth in my uterus, and it wasn't dangerous, but they were getting to the point where they were considering removing my uterus, which I really didn't want to do. And I had actually gotten to the point where I couldn't wear a belt anymore. So I had to wear more flowy kinds of clothing. And about 3 weeks ago, I discovered I could wear a belt again. So that was kind of interesting. So I've not had any kind of ultrasounds or anything, but it's definitely something I can use again. And hormonally, starting last summer, I had crazy, my monthly cycle went nuts, and doctors were having difficulty stopping the flow, and I was becoming quite anemic. And every month it was a struggle. And before we started taking it, I had 3 monthly cycles in the span of 5 weeks. And each cycle was a good 7 or 8 days. And when we started taking it April 2nd, I have not had another monthly cycle. So that has been amazing and actually unexpected in many ways, because I really didn't think that this would create such a huge reaction for me in my hormones. And then finally, a few years ago, I had gotten really, really sick. They couldn't figure out what it was, and I was just exhausted all the time. And since probably the last 3 weeks in particular, I finally felt like my energy is stabilized and I don't have major crashes. Some mornings I would have a major crash, and other mornings I'd be okay. And so I haven't had that in the last 3 weeks. So those are 4 really tremendous kinds of things that have how it's affected me in such a positive way.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. I know that you had come into this kind of struggling, but not knowing, you know, what your outcome was going to be. How has that changed things for you? I mean, how's that affected your daily living?
You know, it's interesting. As I got older, you know, I was just starting to take things as, well, I'm getting older, I'm not sleeping as well, my energy's not as good. And I kept trying to build my stamina, and nothing was really working. And I couldn't even hold a full-time job. And now I have the energy to actually live a regular life again. And so that's tremendous. And if my monthly cycles kept doing what they were doing, I'd probably be in the hospital having organs removed, likely, and or becoming more and more anemic, which just exacerbated the energy problem. So, I mean, it's been tremendous, tremendous.
Wow, that's really amazing. Well, thank you. That's a really great compliant testimony. You did a great job there. Mark, I'm just going to boot over to you quickly. I know I didn't ask you to do this, but you know, we had an event here about 3 or 4 weeks ago in Charlottesville, and I'm sure lots of you have been at events where, you know, you have a whole bunch of people stand up to do the 3 and 5, and then sometimes you get just the occasional person, and David was with us, and it was really odd because we had only one person who stood up last time, and yet the time before, a month or so before, you had been one of the 16 people, I think we had. 17 people, thanks Risa, 17 people who stood up the month before. And so I'd love you just briefly to talk about your experiences in that first month alone, Mark, with what had gone on for you, because you were one of those people who got up and had a great benefit. And could you just briefly share what your changes have been in using the ASEA?
I'd be glad to. So when I showed up, I was still treating myself, or had the residuals. I had a tick bite that I had a bad reaction to, and it had settled in my joints, and especially in my left knee. As a matter of fact, the pants that I wore to the meeting, when I sat down, they were so tight on my knee. They weren't really, but they were just regular pants, and it hurt. I remember telling Aisha, I said, oh, I shouldn't have wore these, it hurts. And then they had us stand up, and they said, you know, does anybody have any pain, you know? And they gave us numbers for it. I think I was a 6 at that point. And they did what you may talk about after the testimonials, a 3 by 5. Put the Renew 28 on 3 times in 5 minutes. I was one of 17. All 17 of us had significant, or even just a little, I can't remember. Everyone had some reduction in pain. For me, it went from the 6 to the 2, but it continued on. We became, shortly afterwards, we became associates. But before I started using the Renew 28 and taking the redox molecules, I could not kneel on that knee, even on a bed. It was too painful. It was painful to the touch. It was painful on the inside. And it was probably not even 2 weeks later that I was working on the pedestal of the bed, and I got down on my knee and I reached under and did some stuff, and I realized I was kneeling on that knee that I'd been so careful with for months, and I didn't feel any pain, and I didn't even think about it. I'd actually changed the way that I kneel down because that was the dominant knee that I would kneel on. And it is
Later on the concrete.
Oh yeah, later on the concrete. Yeah, I was doing something in the garage and kneeling on the concrete. So it's been a complete reversal of something that I couldn't sit in a chair with a pair of regular pants on before that meeting where we all stood up, and now no symptoms at all.
Wonderful. I just want to remind everybody that pain is a medical word.
Oh,
we're going to talk about hurting and discomfort. That's one of those medical terms. No, that's fine. Oh, we appreciate that. And thank you for sharing that. I really thank you for both of you for sharing your stories with us this evening. I know that normally I have not had a chance to talk to anybody. Has anybody like to share a business testimony who's on the call? You can unmute yourself and join in. If anyone's got a business testimony, that would be really great. Give it a few minutes, and while somebody's thinking about that, Risa, why don't we go to rank advancements, and we'll go through those.
Oh, I have to share my screen. That might help.
You will have to share your screen. We're going to have fun here.
Can we see this?
Yes, we can. Perfect. Okay.
So we have new directors, and I will just apologize up front if I do not pronounce your name correctly. I am sorry. So new directors, we have Dwayne Rose, Luciana and Johanna, is that right? Sperling, Kate Cook, Patricia Avils, Derek Sims, Paula Mignon, I don't know if that's right, Karen Boymund, Sharon Miner, Mumtaz Lakana, Omar and Melissa Lopez, Kashyap Desai, Robert Moray. And then Director 300s, we have Dayton Lehman, Edward Sims, Tamara Seleman, how do you pronounce that? Help me, Carolyn.
Mary C.
Farabelle. Irene Hartfield, Veronica Timbermans, Beatrice Duggins, Fiona Sims, Cecily Reynolds, yay, Ruth Dillon, Eugene Lee, Frank Bonagay, okay, Alexandra Knox, Ruth Rodriguez, Debbie Ulrich, Donna Render, Diane Beverly, Maureen Hanson, Zoraida Rodriguez, Jeff and Shelley Bennett, Jacqueline Velez, Mary Doggett, Anthony Puthanpura, Jose Ramon, Julie Morin, Gladys Cruz, Diana Lee, Marla Michael, Alan Burton, Anita Caravello, and Arnell Neary.
So that's wonderful. That was Director 300s, and directors, fabulous. We've got so many this week. I don't know if this is a consolidated event from a couple of weeks or not, but anyway, Director 700, so 700 PV on either side, binary qualified. This is Kevin Gedney, Barbara Herson, Bernadette Woods, Terry Truesdale, Michael Hartfield, Jan Inanda, Starley, K.H. Teng, Sophie Leard, Mimi Butcher, Debbie Bell, Gregory Weldo, and as Debbie says, Chinese, can't pronounce that, do apologize. Cheryl Ashworth, Diane Updike, Casey Chia, Gladys and Biagio Fortunato, Mohammed Fazli bin Zaynuddin, probably butchered that one, really apologize, Nancy Buchanan, Linny Ventura, and Luis Acevedo. So congratulations, D700s. And we have a huge number of executive rank movements this week, which is really amazing. And so congratulations, everyone. So new bronze executive, Nadiji Lubrano, Mabel Hugade, another Chinese name, which I apologize for not pronouncing, Suede Asmar, Kerry Chua, and James and Becky Gabrielle. Congratulations, everybody. Brand new silver executive out there in Las Vegas, Peter Radu. Congratulations, Peter. And brand new gold executive, Wendy Elwell. So congratulations to everyone. And David's typing in there from his Amtrak train. Congratulations, everyone, as he works on the LIR somewhere, traveling around New York. Do we have, before we go on to doing and talking about any training, if you have anybody on the call that is brand new and you would like to introduce, could you go ahead and unmute your line and let's welcome your guest.
Hi, can I start?
Hey, Jackie, go ahead, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Carolyn. So I would like to welcome Randy, Randy, is it Fortune? Fortune, okay, I apologize.
No problem.
So I met Randy's daughter, Chantel, through the Denver North Chamber of Commerce, and she is a bundle of joy. She is so positive, and so she's also a millennial that's joined us, and she's already committed to the convention as well. And so I'd like to introduce Randy, her mother, who has started drinking ASEA. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, Randy, and I know you've already experienced some changes in the 2 weeks that you've been drinking it, but just go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Randy, and I signed up Saturday. I've been drinking it, I think, 2 weeks, maybe 3, I'm not sure. And a lot of changes, but real subtle ones. I used to have a finger that would lock up and pop, and it stayed swollen 24/7 for months. And just Saturday night, I noticed that it's not swollen anymore, and I can actually bend it about halfway. And that's amazing to me. And good thing, because I love to crochet. So that was kind of getting hard to do. And I'm real excited to share this with people. And just, I read an article, a medical paper about redox molecules and mitochondria. And I can't find it now, of course. But that was the day before my daughter told me about this stuff. And so it's kind of like a sign from the universe, I think. So I'm here and I'm ready to go.
That's awesome.
Well, that's fabulous. Welcome, Randy. It's really nice to have you as part of the team. And thank you for your story. What do you actually do apart from crochet?
I crochet. I crochet things to donate. I'm not able to work because of medical stuff. And so I crochet and donate.
Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Well, that's exciting, and you know, we're really pleased to have you here. And the fact that you're already thinking about sharing this means you're going to be a great blessing of a different kind to other people. And I think you're right.
I've shared it with a friend.
There you go. And obviously, no coincidences if you happen to be one of those people that happen to see this medical article on redox and mitochondria. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So does anybody else have anybody on the call this evening that they'd like to introduce? Go ahead. Just unmute yourself if you do. Okay. All right, so tonight, and if you can't unmute yourself or you find something later, pop back on. I'm happy to talk even towards the end. So David really wanted us to focus on convention as our next major event. It's rolling around the corner pretty quickly. And, you know, any of us who've been in this business will know that you move people from event to event. That is the rhythm of this business, and convention is the biggest view and vision that we can ever get for any company that we belong to. I mean, I think it's, you know, if you've been in more than one company, you'll know the power of these events and you know how important it is. But I do think that the CEO most definitely has something that is very different than other companies. And I think when we get to convention, you know, the heart of what we kind of get a sense of with the videos and things like the stories of Genesis, it becomes really, really evident in how powerful and how important and how different this company is in terms of the corporate field. And just, I think everybody here who's on this call as it stands, you know, really does represent that when you start to work with people and you get connected with people. I think there's a heart that comes from people who love to share a SEA that isn't really quite the same necessarily in a lot of other companies. I know that we have Danielle Matthews on the line there. Danielle, I wonder if you could share why, you know, you feel that it would be important for people who have not been to convention to make that commitment to come. And if you're on there and you can unmute yourself.
Sure. Carolyn, can you hear me?
I can. That's great. Hi.
Beautiful. I'm just walking into my house, so in a minute I can switch to have video.
That's cool.
But, you know, it was actually a big event that made me realize, for those of you that I haven't met or shared my story with, ASEA truly gave me my health back after a head injury. And even after that happened, I didn't understand really network marketing. And my mom was telling me, look, Danielle, this is the answer to everything you're asking for, because I was telling my mom I wanted to get back in the workforce. It had been over 3 years since I had been able to work because of my injury. And, you know, my perspective had changed. And I wanted to, you know, find something where I could still earn money if an accident like I had happened again. So I was looking for, you know, like residual income and to have flexibility with my time, to be able to work from home. And she kept saying, Danielle, ASEA. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not doing network marketing. Those people are just sleazy. Like, I'm not doing that. And she actually brought me to the Envision conference, and my mind was just blown away because of what I heard Tyler Norton say from the stage, as well as the people that I spoke to at the event. And so you know, convention is coming up, and convention shows us, like, give me, I apologize because I'm walking in the house at the moment. So if you can give me 30 seconds to bear with me as I get my computer set up, that'd be great. But yeah, I'll kind of talk as I'm doing it. So, you know, with convention, like, the way that I think about it is my parents moved out to Arizona, and, you know, that I saw the Grand Canyon for the first time. And to go try to explain to someone what the Grand Canyon looks like, how impressive it is, like, you've seen pictures, we've all seen pictures. You know, you probably know somebody that's been to the Grand Canyon and has explained it to you, but there is something completely different when you're standing on the side, on the edge of the Grand Canyon, and you're looking at this massive canyon that was formed from, you know, water moving through it. And the beauty of it, the magnitude of it, just, it is awe-inspiring. And convention to me is like explaining explaining the Grand Canyon to someone. It is just, it's very difficult to do in words, and it's much more powerful when someone actually goes there. And I am now, you should be able to,
Can you see me now? Okay, perfect. And hear me? Okay. So what I would say with convention is this: it will give you an opportunity to get to know the company, because if you're going to align yourself, if you're going to put your reputation out there, you know, we all know the power of this product. Everyone on this call has probably seen it themselves, or they're starting to experience, like Jackie's person was just sharing. And, you know, we have this faith in the product, but when you want to put your reputation out there and share this with someone, you know, at some point, someone's going to question the industry, and they're going to question the company. And if you have been to convention and you have been able to look in the eyes of the corporate team, you've been able to hear the way that they speak from stage, what they focus on, what they talk about, it is going to give you, you're going to know what you know. And no one is going to be able to take that away from you, because they just don't know what you know. They don't know what they don't know, right? And so your conviction will just be that much more solid and stronger. And you're going to be able to speak from that place of confidence, because you've seen it with your own eyes. You've passed it through your own truth center, because you've looked in the eyes of the people that run this company. And so one big piece of convention is that it's getting to get the feel of the company, the heart of the company, to understand what they're all about, and to really, you know, with your own two eyes, witness it. But the other piece is the field force. You know, we're all sitting here as little squares on the screen, right? But we're all incredibly beautiful people with all of our own stories and experiences with the SIA, but also just in life. And what convention has been able to do for myself is, you know, I now know people in Australia. I know people that have businesses in Asia. I know people with businesses in Europe. And so as your team expands, now you can call on a friend of yours, a colleague that works over in Australia, and say, hey, I have this going on. Can you kind of fill me in? Because things are different in different countries. So now you have the opportunity to leverage that relationship, that there's no other way you're making that relationship, right? But when you're all in the same ASEA space, and you can spot the ASEA people, we just have this glow about us at these events, you know them in the hotel, that you can start making relationships in the elevator, you know, waiting for dinner. You start meeting people from all over, and your belief just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, we all know the power of talking to a person individually. And then if you get that individual to an event in your hometown, just their mind expands and goes, wow, these people in this community are experiencing this. Well, you guys, convention's the same for us. You go to convention and your mind just gets expanded with, wow, they did this, or I didn't know that that was possible, or whatever it might be. Something's going to happen that's going to stick with you, and it's going to shift the trajectory of your business. And I just know from my own team witnessing it. You know, someone said to me one time, if you get 100 people at an event like convention, at a state event, you have 100 people in your downline at that, residually, you'll be making 6 figures. And so that has always played in the back of my head. And I kind of wondered, like, why? Like, what special magic pixie dust gets sprinkled on people at convention? And it's not that. It's that person now has the conviction inside of them. So when they go home, because this business is so difficult, you know, the roller coaster that we're on, when they go home, that stays in them. That spark stays lit. They stay excited. They are now more intrinsically, internally motivated because something resonated with them at that event. A person they spoke to, maybe not even on stage. it just hit them so hard, and they come back to that when they're in those hard moments. So, you know, if you're a new associate, and guys, make a list of all the new associates that have come in, because they get a cheaper ticket in the first 90 days that they're an associate. So I think, maybe somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's $179 that the new associate gets to go. That's amazing. The level of training that we get at these events is phenomenal. And I always go to a convention with a question. You know, what is it that I want to ask every person that I meet? Because guys, these are industry professionals, people that have done network marketing as a career. So if you want to learn about network marketing, go pick the brain of Trish or Denny, these top income earners in our company, and just pick a question to ask them, and ask it to many, many people. You know, I think a question I asked one of my first conventions was like, what duplicates? What are you doing? What's your duplicatable system? I'd like to hear it. And then I asked enough top leaders that, and figure out what's the theme between all of them. And then I went and implemented it. So think about what you want to get out of it. I always go to convention with a list, who I want to meet and the questions that I want to ask. And I make sure that I get that done and leverage the time that we have together, because when else?
We lose you there. I think we lost you slightly.
To me, like when a new person comes on the team, my question to them is not, are you going to convention? My question is, how many people are you bringing with you to convention? Because if you tell me that you want to do this business, convention is a no-brainer. It's a given. So the question is, you know, how many people are going to come with you to convention? And I always tell them that 100 number. And to just have that in the back of their mind over the years as you build, that's what you're trying to strive and build towards. So, you know, that is, to me, how I express the power of convention. And, you know, it's the rhythm of the business. When you get into a flow of your business, it all leads up to convention. And then you come out of convention. And right now, guys, you should be planning what you're going to do pre-convention to get people excited to go. And then post-convention, when your team is excited, what event do you want to have in place at home to invite people to, so that that energy that you have and your team has from coming home from convention gets, you know, infiltrated into your hometown, and people pick up on that and start learning about it, and you just create momentum for yourself, because you're the force of momentum on your business. Only you can create it, and an event like convention like supercharges you.
That's great, Danielle. I was just thinking when you were saying that, you know, it produces conviction, that it becomes unstoppable, immovable. It doesn't really matter what someone says at that point. And I just really had this vision. How many of us have had people in their team who've been so super excited, they've signed up and they've gone out and they've spoken to people, and immediately someone has said something negative that, you know, well, it's a pyramid scheme, or it's a saltwater scam, or they've questioned why they would even be involved in it, you know, and it's put them down because their conviction and their solidity in knowing what we know isn't in place. And wouldn't it be amazing to be able to take somebody from signing up straight to convention so that their conviction about what they've got their hands on could be so strong from the moment that they start talking? Because it reminded me of that phrase where it said, you know, that someone with an opinion is never at the mercy of somebody with an experience. And really, that's really what convention brings, is that experience piece that makes it so solid, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, it totally does. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you're right, that statistic of the 100 people produces that six-figure income. It's because that is $1,000 per person that you're taking to convention. So you can do the calculation of how much you want to influence your business over the forthcoming year by the number of people that you're going to take with you. And yeah, that's a great way to look at it. The moment they join, who are they going to bring with them? Because that's going to solidify their team too. So fabulous. Thank you for that. What I wanted to do, I think, since we have David and Debbie here, and I wanted to open up in a different way, and I'll give you a chance to think about this, but I'd love to hear from people who've been to convention. You know, what was the one thing, can you think of one thing that was either, as you said, a conversation with a leader, or something that you heard on stage, or a private conversation, some event that changed your perspective, that if you had not have gone to convention, you would not have achieved that mindset from just staying at home in our local events. So whilst people think about that, because I'm going to ask you if you've got a thought to then unmute and share that, I want to just share with you something that came to mind when I was thinking about this. And I guess it's that kind of significance that I attribute to, you know, who are we within ASEA when we're doing this? I think it's very easy when we're running our own businesses, no matter where we are at what level, but particularly in the beginning when we're trying to build through the D3700s and the bronze and the silver, etc., to maybe think that what we do is not as successful as other people, that we're not as productive as other people, that we're, you know, less significant than somebody who's got a bigger rank or whatever it is. And that to recognize just, you know, the moment you start enrolling people, you're already distinguishing yourself in the community of people who've become associates in ASEA. And you've already started to elevate yourself into those top percentages of people around the world who are doing things that, you know, not most people are not actually active. And so if you're here and you're committing your time and you're busy trying to move your business and build, you know, you're already establishing that you have something over and above the average person. So that's something you should be able to credit yourself with, as opposed to kind of doing that comparison piece that we often fall into, and we know that that's a detrimental thing. I don't know if any of you are curious enough. So for instance, a couple of things, when we were beginning to move through the ranks and we got to gold, I was kind of curious, what did that mean in terms of the structure of the company as a whole? How many other people were gold? You know, was I one of 15,000? Was I one of a much more elite group? What did that tell me about my activity? Not because I wanted to go, oh, well, that's really wonderful, you know, I'm really special, but to kind of get a sense of where did I sit in terms of activity and by comparison with everybody else. You know, did this mean that I really was doing something that was active and important and beginning to build things, or was I, you know, part of a much larger group? Because I think when we're in isolation working on our own, it's really hard to know where we sit in the space of this whole business. But a reflection of that came from me at the last convention. We were on the first day, we were walking into and up the escalators. And if anybody remembers that as you go up the escalators at the top, there was a big board, long, tall board, and it had everybody who had been awarded a fast forward. And it had in one section anyone who had done 1 to 3 fast forwards. And then around on the other side, it was anybody who'd done 4 or more. And then I was coming up the stairs, and she can actually chip into this because I'm sure she remembers it too, but I was coming up the stairs with one of my group, and we got to the top of the stairs and we were looking on the board and kind of scanning up and down, and she kind of looked at it and she said to me, "Good grief, I'm up on the board." And she said, how, you know, where is everybody else? Because I think what she was thinking, and this goes to, you know, we're working in isolation, she was thinking that her activities of creating a fast forward and being successful wasn't a big deal in the scope of the whole thing. And that obviously there were hundreds of people doing the same thing. And there she saw on this board that that really wasn't the case. And I looked at her and I said, yeah, I keep on saying that, you know, doing these things, taking this activity is being more active, proactive, and engaged in the business than most people are. And that you are special when you get a fast forward because you've put more effort in than a lot of people who never get there. And that this does distinguish you, and that we think, again, because we're busy working at these things, that this isn't such a big deal, but it is a big deal. And I think we all need to think about congratulating ourselves when we make those milestones, such as the fast forwards and things like that, or for just enrolling people. You know, you're not always going to get the rhythm of things where you can get your fast forwards to come together, but just enrolling distinguishes you. You're already special. And that was an aha moment for me out of convention. I guess I probably wouldn't have really realized how much it hit home for somebody else, because there was somebody in my team saying, wow, I would never have expected to be up there. I would have thought that there would be so many more people. So that was kind of my aha, not necessarily from the stage. I mean, there were other things in terms of what Terry Latham says about, you know, you only see the glory, not the story. And I think that's really what we all work through. We work through the story every time, but there's that moment of glory up there that we look at maybe differently. So if anyone's got a, you know, story that they'd love to share with the group about what they thought was important about convention and why it changed some aspect of how they thought about something, I'd love to hear it.
I have something to share. I'm sorry, this is Teresa.
Hey, Teresa.
Hey, our first convention was in Orlando a few years ago, about 3 months after we signed up and started on the product. And my husband and I always knew about the power of residual income, and we had been involved with the network marketing group years before, but there were some things about it that just kind of turned us off. And so we knew the products were good. We had already had our own experiences, you know, a short time into using the products. And we were excited to go to convention to meet the founders and to meet these people that we had heard so many wonderful things about. But there was a part of me that just was kind of like, oh, we've been to other conventions with other companies, and I just found I was really turned off by the emphasis at the conventions on material things such as yachts and mansions, and not that there's anything inherently wrong with if somebody owns that, that's great, but it just didn't resonate with me. And so I didn't really know what to expect with our first ASEA convention. We went, and I was pleasantly surprised that I saw no pictures of yachts. That was not the emphasis at all. And what was a real shift for me was when Justin Wilson got up and shared his love for network marketing and shared the story of his father and how he grew up as a beneficiary of what network marketing could offer. And I remember my heart being so touched that, you know, he talked about the kinds of opportunities that opened up to them as a family that they otherwise wouldn't have had, and that they had opportunities to help people. And so at that point, I had a shift for myself that, you know what, it doesn't have to be about yachts and mansions. There's so many other blessings that can come through this. And so for me, that was huge. And so I'm really grateful that I went so early on.
That's fabulous. Yeah, thanks, Teresa. I mean, that kind of reminds me of Tyler Norton talking about the dignity of just earning $500 a month that can come, and how impactful that sum can be for just about everybody. That's great. Does anybody else have a story?
Different perspective, if you will. And it's actually a do and a don't. One, don't get on the wrong bus, or do, if you would. I got on the wrong bus and wound up going with the Australian group and the Oriental group, many of whom didn't speak the same language. But I got to sit with many of their diamonds and spoke with them, and they had some excellent advice. So I would say it was a great experience from that standpoint. And my other thing to definitely do is I found out that most of the diamonds tend to hang out in a central location around the bar area, and I spent some time there talking to at least 20 different diamonds about the business, and got some wonderful tips, wonderful ideas, similar to the first person that shared their experience. So that's my take.
Thanks, Frank. You know, that's a really great point, and I know that Paul's going to jump in and say, I'm going to let you say what I was just thinking about. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, and it's so true. And Teresa was talking about, and Danielle was going in that whole direction. You know, we've been to conventions before, Carolyn, you and I, over the last 20 years. And, you know, we go, partly to me, it's a vacation with my wife, because we are wanting to learn, and the breakout sessions are wonderful, but then you want to get up to the diamonds, those successful people, and some of the founders of those other companies. And my experience has always been you couldn't find them. You know, they were there on stage, they were there to teach you that session, and then they were gone. I think from jumping around a little bit, but from a business point of view, that took away some of the ethics of that company, of who they were. And what Frank was just saying, I mean, it is so true in ASEA. I don't know if diamonds have to sign a authorization form or of openness, but none of our diamonds, hide on us. And I think when we are able to go and meet with them face to face, even if you're a director 300 or 700, whatever, you can envision moving someplace if you can relate to people who are already there. And getting those lessons, and you and I and a bunch of people, we're talking with Alan Noble last time, and it was just unbelievably refreshing. And so that's the ethics of this company, and that's why it is such a wonderful business opportunity.
Thanks.
I'll leave it at that.
And it's fun having a drink.
Carolyn, can you hear me?
Yeah, hey Sarah.
Hi, Carolyn. So I just wanted to share that, my first experience with ASEA convention was just about 2 months after I had signed on as an associate, and I had no clue what network marketing looked like as a real business venture. And yet I had started to hear so many amazing experiences on the charge up call and had some really cool things happen personally that I started to engage in sharing, just naturally talking to people about it. And because of that, I remember hearing David Silverman say that I needed to get to convention. If, I couldn't afford to get to convention, I couldn't afford not to be there. And so I really got my arm twisted to get a ticket to Orlando convention in 2012. And everything changed for me there. It was so different for me to be in this space of people from all over the country and all different walks of life. I finally saw that I could be part of this company. I didn't have to have some special powers because there were so many people that were real people just like me. And what Paul was just saying too, all of the field leaders, all of the diamonds that were in not only our upline, but crossline and people I'd heard on other calls and webinars that I'd been part of were all accessible and saying hello, whether I was passing them in the hotel or, in line for the bathroom. And it was just such an incredible experience for me to plug into that community and also see the heart of ASEA. And, fast forward a couple of years and going to another convention, and I will never miss a convention unless, there's a major thing that can't be avoided. But fast forwarding a few years later and showing up at convention and being really disappointed with the progress that I had not made and thinking that I should have done better, I had this mental block thinking that all of these leaders and all of these people that I had not seen or really connected with because I hadn't done well were going to be somehow disappointed in me or looking down on me, because coming from the corporate world, that had been my experience. If you were really successful, people were, nice to you and congratulated you and wanted to be around you. But when you weren't successful, those people that weren't very successful didn't get the same attention and time from the leadership. And that was so not at all what I experienced. It was just really cool to see the culture of ASEA and learn and really be able to get the true vision of the product, the opportunity, and the culture that we're creating. So don't miss it.
That's a great point. About, again, having that perception of ourselves and where we're at in comparison, and that's such a dangerous thing. And so that's kind of cool, to recognize it. But again, I think that speaks to the culture of what we have here, doesn't it? It really does speak about who ASEA people are and what this company is that does differentiate it from other companies. And, what Teresa was saying about the boats and the cars and the big checks and all of that, that was our observation when we just went to a quarterly event to take a real look at the business side of this company, was that we came away after a whole day and nobody had talked about any of those things. It was all about who we were as people, who we could become, and how we could help other people and the product. And so that really in itself kind of laid the field for the fact that we found something different, even though we hadn't been looking, because Dorothy and I only talked about gel. So does anyone else have any thoughts as we're kind of coming towards the end of the call?
I'll just say one little thing. So, and I shared this on Bobby Martin's call the other day, but so when I got out of being a news reporter and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next, I basically hadn't realized how big of a leader my own mother was. I've been doing the business for 7 years. That just completely went over my head. So when I went to convention, I still kind of rolled my eyes going to there, but my mom just said, you'll figure out if this is for you or not when you go there. So she never pressured the business on me. So I went, and it literally was the best 4 days of my life. I was blown away, and I just got to see how amazing every single person that has been attracted to this business is. And so I got to, I knew some of the people already, but just formulating those relationships, seeing the technology, hearing testimonials around the world, seeing Vertus and Tyler Norton, and hearing their stories and why this came about to be network marketing. I really understood everything about it. And what struck me the most, though, was just how many people went up to my own mother, just either thanking them for introducing them to this product and or helping on their team. And I just said, wow, like, I want to be my mom one day. So, and have that big an impact. So, I don't even know, like I said the other day, I don't even know if a Super Saturday would have done that for me. It was convention that locked me in and said yes to this amazing opportunity. So thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. And I know that I have heard you talk about that because we've kind of spent time around at some of the bigger events and Eric War events and things. And it's kind of funny because you made that comment about you didn't realize, what a big deal your mother was. And I think back to the Envision event that we had actually in Rockville, Maryland last year. And Paul and I were on stage being acknowledged as being golds, and we had taken 2 of our kids with us, again, just to share with them and expose them to what this was about. We had no idea whether they were actually going to do anything with it, but they came back saying the same thing. It's like, I guess it's like that. Suddenly you see your mother as the human being and not your mother, right? Someone who has another life and is, and is respected and seen differently as who she is and what she does than you perceive her as the mother-daughter relationship piece. And it's kind of interesting, isn't it, to say, I want to become my mother.
Never in a million years, but yeah, no, I just remember because it was in Salt Lake City and I was driving back to Wyoming, and I just called my brother and I said, you better be proud of Mom right now. And he just, he still has no idea, I think. It's not until you go to these big events that ASEA has, so.
Yeah, it's like take your child going to work, isn't it, right? They see their parent being their parent. I guess, Danielle, was it the same for you when you saw your mother in her context, in her environment?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a different, interesting dynamic to why should we go to, if we are tied into a relationship here where our parents are doing things, and a different kind of aspect that we can acquire from going to convention, right? Which is cool. It's cool. Let's just kind of wrap up and think about, you were right, Danielle, anyone who's still within their 90 days as a new associate gets that discounted ticket. You can call associate support to get your discount. You can find out events on the ASEA events page, and also events tab in the ateamsupport.com, and that has that password associate with a capital A. I'm not on my own computer, and so I don't have access to a lot of things. I know that we need to talk about and just remind people. I think it's Justin Wilson is on the ASEA In Touch call tomorrow, I believe, in the evening. So an important call not to miss, along with Karen Riley. And I'll just open up if anybody else has any other thoughts of things that we need to let people know or events that are taking place. Just feel free to unmute.
Carolyn?
Yes.
There's going to be a presentation in Woodland Hills, California tomorrow night by Sean Drieben at Total Wine. Starts at 6:30. in the village.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yep, other than that, we will just say, get to convention. There is no substitute for it. And, you know, building your, as I've talked about, I know that Paul and I have talked about, you know, what moved us to platinum and our decision from the previous convention of being a D700, leaving that as a D700, making a commitment to say we were coming back as platinums to the next convention, and then just putting that plan into action. And it is that action moving from event to event to event and getting that rhythm that took us, you know, to convention as platinums. But, you know, that's because you focus on duplicating your actions and helping your team do the same thing so that you're building from the bottom. And so we know that those fires always build best from the base and not just from your own activity. You're not going to make it to those levels unless you've got a team vested and you're really supporting them. And getting convention is a vision that, you know, as Danielle said very clearly, we can't possibly describe the Grand Canyon the same way as they're going to get that impression when they turn up themselves. So it's going to be all sorts of things that they're going to step away with that we can talk to with blue in the face, but you just can't pass on that kind of experience. So I want to thank anyone if there's any other thoughts for this evening. Otherwise, we will.
I just wanted to say the reason we can't is because it's feelings, and you can't describe feelings.
Yeah, it's true. It's probably no different, is it, than our Renew 28, right? Getting the 3 and 5. You can talk about how things may hurt and then they go away, but once they get it because they felt it for themselves, and it's entirely different. They know that what we're talking about is true. Is there anyone else? Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we're going to wrap up.
Hi, I want to say hello from Australia. How are you?
Hey, Luciane, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. We had an event, a CA event here last night. It was about 300, 250 people in the room. It was very big, amazing.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow,
Yeah.
absolutely fabulous. So it sounds like you're really rocking and rolling over there.
Oh, it wasn't my event, but I got guests there.
Excellent.
It was from the Australia team here in Gold Coast in Queensland. And I could have new connections there. And I just want to say as well that I took my daughter to our convention Envision here in Gold Coast beginning of the year. She's 10 years old. And at the end of Tyler's speaking, he came to say hello to me. I was a brand new in ASEA. I just started in February. And so I was just weeks in ASEA when I went to the convention here. And Dr. Silverman told me to go to the convention and speak to Dan Doyle and with Tyler. And I didn't know who they were. And when I found out, they were the big leaders here, and they were so amazing, welcome, full heart. And I went to the convention because of Petri Radu. Petri is with Dr. Silverman, and he has been my amazing leader that I'm so grateful for him that he brought me to ASEA. And Tyler, at the end of his speaking, he was on his knees talking to my daughter. So that told me like a lot about the heart of this company. Yeah.
That's a fabulous story. Thank you, Luciane. You know, I was just quickly reflecting there that, you know, there you are taking your 10-year-old daughter to an event like that. And it kind of just made me think about the fact that in this business, the actions speak so much louder than the words in everything that we do. But it's really interesting to realize that you probably aren't aware when your children watch you doing this business, you know, what they take from those actions and how they see you as people. Especially particularly if you're really building that successful business and they watch you moving through the ranks, it actually it communicates a lot. So that's a fabulous thing. She's going to look back and probably remember that.
She's going to be big because she's learning from early age.
Exactly. I want to thank everybody. We're at 9:01, so feel free to unmute. Risa, if you can just unmute the lines and let everybody say good night. Thank you very much, Paul.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Wonderful meeting.